Welcome to the Beyond Jiu Jitsu Podcast. This is episode 160. Ask a Black Belt number 14. Can you believe it? We've done 14
Holy
Q&A
shit.
episodes. That's crazy. That's wild.
It's wild. 14. Kieren the Feb, Adam Childs. You're Kieren. I'm Adam. Greatest intro ever. At 14, I can't believe we've done 14 Q&A episodes.
Yeah,
Holy
man.
shit. Yeah, that's awesome. It's for new listeners, it is a recurring episode we do every 10 episodes, 140, 150, 160, 170, etc. That started back on episode
10 or
10 or something.
Episode
7 or something. Yeah.
Yep.
We didn't initially start it thinking it would be this recurring segment. Otherwise we probably would have started it on episode 10. And then we missed some for our like half century episode and our 100th episode and stuff like that. But yeah, I love the Q&A episodes. We get to hear the audio questions submitted by our listeners, which is great. Speaking of listeners, let me just quickly give a little shout out. I was at a local competition on the weekend, just yesterday, actually. And yeah, it's always nice. A couple of listeners to the podcast came up and said hello. I believe from memory, their names were Liam and Cade, I think their names were. Sorry.
Those boys.
Yeah. Thanks for saying hello, guys. I missed your matches, as always, with competitions. I had 3 of my own students all fighting at the same time at one point, so it's very hard to catch them. So hopefully you did well, Liam and Cade. I didn't see your matches, but I hope you did well. If you see me at the next comp, let me know how you did. Thanks for coming up and saying hello.
Yeah, it's always nice when we're touring around the local jiu-jitsu comp scene and people say good day and it's cool, man.
It's cool. But like sometimes when it happens, so for example, the first guy, I think it was Cade, who said hello to me, kind of was like, he was sitting down, a few rows up. He was like, hey, Adam, and like gestured to me, and I'm going to feel really bad if I have met him before in the past, but I don't think I have, but like gestured to me in a way that was like that we knew each other.
Yeah.
And so instantly my mind went to, oh fuck, I can't remember this dude's name or whatever, because podcast aside, I get that. I wouldn't say quite a lot, but I guess
Adam is very famous. Yes.
Yeah. Like, obviously I say this all the time that I'm a complete nobody, but I guess in Sydney, or in Australia, a lot of people appear to know who I am. I guess, like, I don't know, like even if it's just on a very surface level, I'll meet someone who's visiting and they say, yeah, my coach knows you and recommended that I drop in here and whatever. And
it's a small world, right? In Australia, the black belt, I mean, it's always growing, but particularly head coaches is a small world. Like the black belt world in Australia is small. It's not that many, but the amount of head coaches is even smaller. So it makes sense that,
I guess I've never really thought about it like that. Yeah. But, so I, often enough have people come up to me and start chatting to me, and they'll chat as if we know each other. And sometimes it is someone I've met multiple times, but I could never tell you where I met them from or know them from or anything.
Yeah.
And I had it once where a guy clearly mistook me for someone else though as well, because he was like, yeah, we used to train together.
Sheldon? Big Bang Theory?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. And he said something along the lines of, because maybe I even prompted him. Maybe I even said, where do we know each other from again? And he was like, yeah, remember we used to train together as blue belts at such and such. And it was like, and I just like continued on the conversation, just kind of.
Did you gaslight him? Did you let him believe?
Well, I guess I essentially just fobbed it off and changed the conversation, because it wasn't like he said, remember we trained together as blue belts in Brazil. It was like, yeah, remember we trained together in blue belts at whatever. And it was like, no, well, I never did any of my colored belt training in Australia. I only ever trained in Brazil, so it definitely wasn't me because I never trained anywhere as a blue belt in Australia. But
That's awkward.
Anyway, it was fine. It was a live life one awkward step at a time. Yeah. But I mean, I'll talk a little bit more about the competition later. But anyway, I just wanted to say, while we were talking about listeners, this episode really is about the listeners. I just wanted to say thanks for coming up and saying hello, guys, and because a lot of my own students listen to the podcast, and I'm sick of them saying hello. So it's nice. So it's nice to have other people say something. How was your week? How was your week, Kieren? Anyone recognize you?
No, but I do get the odd whenever I go to competitions here, even here in Sweden. I have a few people come up to me. I had one kid. I don't think stop me if I've told this story, but I have to tell this. I had one kid recognize me at a competition I did a little while ago, months ago. You know that no-gi submission only comp I did?
Mm-hmm.
I had a couple of people come up to me, but one in particular, he would have been like, 15 or something like that, maybe even younger. And he came up all excited with his mate, and he's like, "Are you on TikTok?" And I'm like, "Yeah, bro." And then he pulls up my TikTok and shows me. It was so fucking funny. It was really cool. And he was so excited, showing his mate. Oh man, I felt important.
Nice.
Oh man, he was such a lovely guy. I got a photo and shit, and yeah, nice kid. But the TikTok reaches a different demographic, obviously. But
you obviously have to get to, I mean, a level of fame that is something that is not in my realm of, I don't want to say realm of possibility, because that sounds like I'm not capable of it, but it's not on my radar. It's not something I work towards or whatever. But that level of fame where you would be put off or annoyed by people saying hello or asking for photos, like I'm never getting to that level of fame, and it's not.
I don't think anyone in jiu-jitsu is at that level. Even like Craig, when he walks around, at a comp, he's going to get heaps of photos. Obviously, it's Craig Jones or Gordon Ryan or whatever, but it's not, they're not going to be bombarded every time they go to get a coffee somewhere. You know what I mean? Those type of situations, when you're at that level of fame where you literally can't even get a coffee. Like there's videos of where they send celebrities out just to sit at a cafe and then count how many photos they take. They've done it with a bunch of celebrities that make videos out of it. And, it's insane. Like people just flock to them when you're that level of like famous or whatever. But it's just interesting having like some form of social media presence in such a small niche that when we go to competitions, the chances are like one person out of 1,000 might be like, "Oh, I listen to the podcast." That's really cool. I like that. That's
awesome. No, it makes me, I felt bad for them because the dude was like, "Oh yeah, man, I'm a landscaper or laborer." A landscaper, I think he said. It's like, so I listen to it, while I'm working. I was like, why do you want to make your day go even longer, bro?
This self-deprecating humor. Anyway, enough sucking our own dicks. Let's get into these questions, shall we?
Let's get into it. Yeah, let's get stuck straight in. This would be one of our shortest intros in quite a while. So let's go with let's go straight with question one.
This first question is from Jacob.
Hey, what's up, guys? My name's Jacob. I train out of Austin, Texas. Love the show. But lately I've been getting bombarded with a bunch of electrolyte propaganda. Just wanted to know y'all's take on it, if you have any good brands or if you think that they're not really necessary. But yeah, just wanted to get y'all's take. Cheers.
Yeah, excellent question, Jacob. Adam, do you have any experience with electrolytes?
No, I mean, obviously, regular listeners would already know this is definitely a question for you, despite the title of the episode. Let me give my
threw that one in there. Despite that title.
Well, no, this question is clearly not for me. But I think what my understanding of electrolytes is very, very base level, and let me just say what I know about them, because maybe what I know is less than the average person knows, but I would assume it's probably more than the average. I don't mean the average jiu-jitsu person. I just mean the average person knows. And I think it's also worth noting that when he said different brands, being in the US, he would have access to a way wider range of brands than we get in Australia, I would assume, just based on, the way the American market works.
Yeah.
But firstly, I know that that electrolytes, there are there's different types of electrolytes. It's not just like electrolytes are just this one thing, it's like, like sodium's an electrolyte, isn't it? And like magnesium's an electrolyte. Like there's different types of electrolytes, whereas I think most people think that electrolytes are just the one thing and more equals better, but it's not about that, right? One electrolyte drink could have, I don't know what numbers make sense, but like 500 electrolytes, and the other could have like 600. Doesn't mean the 600 one is better. Like it depends on what type of electrolytes are in there. The other thing that I understand about them is that a lot of people don't realize that if we're talking about just say Gatorade or Powerade, your standard electrolyte drink that I think every single person would know those names and brands, they are a sports drink designed to replenish the electrolytes you lose while exercising. So the electrolytes you lose through sweat, and you're trying to replenish those so you can continue to work out. But a lot of people drink like a Gatorade when they're not exercising instead of water, thinking that it's like, I'm being healthy and I need electrolytes, which, unless you're getting a sugar-free one, is like loaded with a bunch of unnecessary sugar. And that's pretty much my, the last thing I'd say is that they're usually loaded with sugar, because one of the main electrolytes you lose through your sweat, I believe, is sodium or salt or whatever. And so it's one of the most important ones to try replenish, but obviously that means it tastes shit. So it's usually masked with sugar.
Yeah.
I believe that's maxing out my understanding of electrolyte beverages and what they're used for and misconceptions about them. That's about it.
Yeah. Okay. So let's unpack that. So first and foremost, to address Jacob's question, do I recommend them or like what? I'm not going to recommend any brands, just as a caveat. I don't have any supplement affiliations, but what I will do is give you some information, and then based on that information, you can choose a brand that best suits, your budget and the requirements that you're looking for. So Adam, you're right in terms of the primary ingredient in electrolyte is, or what we're looking at when we're looking at these sports drinks, these hydration sports drinks, is sodium and carbohydrate, believe it or not. So what you're saying about people drinking Gatorade instead of water or Powerade or whatever because they like the flavor and they think it's healthy, like they think they're hydrating themselves or whatever. You're 100% right there. It's totally not the case. If you're just having, a Powerade or a Gatorade, you're just getting a shitload of sucrose or simple carbohydrate when you don't really need it. You do need it when you're exercising, and that's why it's in there, okay? So that's the first caveat. Second caveat I would say is be careful if you're in a calorie deficit and you're ingesting lots of Powerade and Gatorade during your training to try and get that electrolyte replenishment because of the sugar content. So it is going to carry some extra calories. It's okay, but you need to take that into account when you're calculating your calorie deficit. So those are the caveats out of the way. Now, the second thing I'll say is that all of this information I'm about to talk about is freely available on a resource that I put together called the Jiu-Jitsu Supplement Database. I'm super proud of this resource, and it's completely free, but not many people know about it because for whatever reason, the videos on YouTube just don't get the click-through rate and no one watches them, so no one learns about the database. But I get a lot of questions about supplements, and then I always direct people to this resource. So basically, it's an app that works on your phone. You don't have to download anything. It just works on your phone as an app. It's got all the information you need on supplements. So I've pulled up electrolyte powders, what I wrote. I've scored electrolyte powders a 4 out of 5 for cost versus benefit ratio. There's a short summary on what electrolytes are. So basically, when we're talking about electrolytes, we're talking about minerals here. So they're minerals crucial for maintaining hydration. Specifically, we're talking about sodium, we're talking about potassium, calcium, magnesium, chloride. So those are electrolytes. These are electrolytes. Sports hydration drinks, like I mentioned, also will have high amounts of sugar, which is good if you want that benefit from your training. Because what we need to replenish during training when we sweat a lot is sodium, yes, potassium, magnesium as well. But also we want to get that glycogen replenishment during training. So that intra-workout glycogen replenishment. If that's what you're after, then having sugar in your electrolyte powder is good. You don't want a sugar-free Powerade or a sugar-free Gatorade in that case. You want one with sugar, so long as you're not in a calorie deficit or something along those lines. So that's a very important caveat. So definitely highly recommend electrolytes when you're training very heavily or you have an intense training session, I should say, and there's a lot of sweat going on. So if you're training jiu-jitsu during summer, say it's like an hour-long open mat or a 90 minutes to 2-hour session, then electrolytes could be an excellent way to stay hydrated during your session. So I highly recommend electrolytes in that case. You don't need to be ingesting electrolytes or sports drinks during every single session. Only those that you know you're going to be doing a lot of rolling, maybe a lot of wrestling, where there's a lot of sweat. So definitely recommend electrolytes, because just drinking water sometimes is not enough to hydrate you. You really need to replenish those lost electrolytes. So in the supplement database, I also have a section on exactly why to take it to help maintain fluid balance, nerve function, muscle health during exercise, the relevance to jiu-jitsu, just expanding on what I spoke about here, different supplement forms that you can take. So they do come in tablets and dissolvable tablets, things like that. But yeah, just a powder in your shaker cup or in a drink bottle is sufficient. A lot of pre-made powders will come with carbohydrate in the formulation as well. If that's something that you don't want, just get one obviously that is sugar-free and doesn't have the sucrose or anything like that, or dextrose sometimes they have. Dosage will depend on the level of intensity, how much you're sweating, et cetera, and yeah, so highly cheap. Cost versus benefit score is very high, very cheap. You expect to pay between $10 and $30 for a tub of electrolyte powder, brand dependent. But also, there is one more thing. I know I've been talking for a while and rambling at this stage, but there's one more thing that you need to be aware of, and it's the sodium potassium ratio. There are ratios that are better than others. Like the off-the-shelf Powerades and Gatorades have very low levels of sodium in them, and that's to your point, Adam, to make them more palatable. And they do mask the taste of the sodium with the sugars and everything like that, but still the sodium content on a standard Gatorade is very low. You can get like, I forget what they're called, but like souped up essentially versions of Gatorade that have a higher amount of sodium. But if you don't taste the sodium in your electrolyte powder, it's probably a dog shit product, or it has lots of sugar masking it. So you want higher levels of sodium.
So for Jacob, who is trying to digest all that information, but he's like, okay, cool. So they're good, but then how do I choose the right brand or whatever? So when he's looking at the nutrition tab or whatever on the back of the bottle, so you're essentially looking for one to give the most simple terms. You could argue, obviously you're not going to say a blanket statement like in nutrition, more sodium is better, but in an electrolyte drink, that is typically the case, right?
Yeah.
Like it's if you've got one with 0.5 milligrams and one with 5 milligrams, I don't know how much does go into it. One, I can't remember off the top of my head, but the 0.5 milligram electrolyte drink is not really a sports hydration electrolyte drink.
Yeah, and maybe 0.5 grams. If you have 0.5 milligrams of, it would be 0.5 grams of sodium what you're referring to, and that would be 500 milligrams. So what we're looking for, you really want this is on the higher end, you want a sports drink with at least about 1,000 milligrams of sodium. The potassium ratio might be about 200 milligrams to 1,000 milligrams of sodium. And, the magnesium, whatever, could be like somewhere around 50 to 100 milligrams of magnesium. So you definitely want higher levels of that sodium. These sports drinks, though, they taste like shit, particularly if you get the sugar-free ones. Yeah, they they have a bit of flavoring in, but they should taste salty. Now, I'm not going to name any brands, but there is a very popular brand that do sponsor a lot of jiu-jitsu guys, and this may be the product that Jacob has been seeing. If that is the product, again, I'm not going to name what it is, but you should know if you watch enough jiu-jitsu YouTube, you should know the brand I'm talking about, that is a decent product. I've tried it. It is decent. But yeah, so again, the ratio for sodium, you want high levels of sodium. So you want about 1,000 milligrams of sodium, and you want around about that 200 to upwards of milligrams of potassium. So a lot of the sports drinks you will buy, if we compare, let's just take that 1,000 milligrams, and I'm just going to Google Powerade nutrition label, and I want to compare it because I know that it is significantly lower. It's not even showing me the sodium, 150 milligrams. Yeah,
so not much
per serving. Container about 2.5. Okay, so it's 2.5 in this. I don't know what Powerade, how much Powerade is this. I'm just going to assume that it's like a 360 milliliter. So we're looking at containers per serve 2.5. So that means that this is very riveting listening. We have 375 milligrams of sodium in a Powerade. So it's not that bad. And this is Powerade Zero mixed berry, so zero sugar in this version. But the potassium is 35. So 35, 2.5 is 87.5 milligrams of potassium. So the ratio isn't terrible, but the sodium is quite low. But it's better than, if that's what you have
still
available,
it's more than some other ones.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So, that's an option.
Yeah. All right. So long story short, lots of sodium, drink it when you're training hard, sweating hard. But yeah, it's not a supplement for water if you're just out for a leisurely stroll and thinking you're being healthy.
Yeah, definitely. And if you want to learn more, Jiu-Jitsu supplement database, I'll put a link to it in the description.
Okay. Nice. Thanks for the question, Jacob. Hopefully that helped. Let's go. Question number 2.
Hey, Adam, Kieren. I just had a question about competing without a team affiliation. I basically moved from one city to another, and my old gym has an affiliate team down here, but it's too far away, so I train at a different gym, which is kind of the rival gym to that gym. And I want to compete again soon, but I don't really want to compete against some of my old teammates because they all come down to this city to compete. But I also don't really want to compete for my new team. So I'm considering just competing without a team affiliation. I just wonder what you guys think.
Yeah, interesting. Firstly, thank you for sending in the question. He didn't say his name, did he?
Sam.
Thank you for the question, Sam. I think it depends on the organization you're competing under. So, because if you're competing under anything that is associated with IBJJF, you're not going to be able just to rock up and you're going to quickly see when you try to do your online registration, you have to select a team. And then if you just randomly pick some team that you've never heard of, it won't get approved because the head coach of that team has not approved you as one of the athletes for that team. So you won't be able to just go compete without a team affiliation. Now, if you are able to compete without a team affiliation, then I would assume it's a pretty small, low-key competition, or it's a competition that's not affiliated with any sort of background checking bureaucracy stuff. And if that's the case, I don't know, does it let you just put blank, not applicable for team, or you're just going to put your own name as the team name? I'm not sure. But if you can do that,
what a flex.
Yeah. If you can do that, I mean, I don't see what the issue is. But so look, to answer the first part of the question, if you can compete without a team affiliation, I'm like, well, what's it matter? Teams to some degree are becoming less significant. We've spoken about this previously, with there's still a few big team names that make waves, but with all the kind of who's number one and whatever, people are more invested in the athlete rather than the team, similarly to like the UFC. No one gives a shit what team or gym John Jones trains out of. right? They're just invested in the fighter. So if it'll let you, cool. Who cares? Go for it. But when you said, I don't really want to compete against any of my old teammates, is that if you're saying I don't want to because they're my old training partners who I have good relationships with and yada, 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 if that's the reason, well, that's not really a good enough reason because most competitions nowadays don't let you close out with teammates anymore. ADCC hasn't allowed it for however long, and IBJJF officially changed that rule like 2 years back or something, where you're not allowed to close out with teammates anymore. So even if you hadn't moved, there's the possibility of fighting teammates. And then when you say you don't want to compete for your new team, I'm not sure. I don't quite have the context there. Is it just because you haven't been there long enough that you don't want to represent them yet? So I don't know. It's hard to answer, Sam, without a little bit more information for the first part of what you said in the question, not wanting to compete against your old teammates, but also not wanting to represent the new gym. That brings more questions for me. But to sum it up, if the organization, the event will just let you compete without any affiliation of a team, then yeah, cool, go for it. If they won't, then I guess it goes back to wanting a little bit more information as to why you don't want to fight your old teammates and why you don't want to represent the new gym.
I'll just add to that in terms of like what Smooth Comp will allow you to do and what it won't. In a lot of cases, this will depend on the organization that you're joining, the whatever competition you're joining to. I found out recently I was just going to compete under Vantage as a team, but in Sweden, Vantage is not available because it's geo-locked. It has to be a team that's recognized by the whatever Swedish or Nordic grappling organization that was putting on the competition. So they wouldn't even recognize Vantage. It wouldn't let me. So I had to join Dynamics, which is the team that I'm under, or the affiliation that I'm under in Sweden. I had to reach out to the head coach and be like, hey, can you approve me and all this sort of shit to be able to register.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, because Sam, if the comp you're doing is through Smooth Comp, I wasn't aware of that. I mean, I knew you registered under the other team for the comps you've been doing in Sweden, but I didn't really put much thought into it. Yeah, because Vantage is like, sounds wanky to say recognized, right? Because it's not like it's not like it's a big team, but if you could go register for Worlds, IBJJF Worlds, for Euros, for the fucking
with Vantage, yeah.
Austin Open, whatever, under Vantage. Vantage is there as a team with IBJJF.
So maybe Sam can use Vantage.
Yeah. There you go. And yeah, it's also on Smooth Comp, right? But I get like I was saying, Sam, how you wouldn't be able just to pick a random team. The head coach of the teams, they get notifications when someone who hasn't been approved tries to register under the team name. So I get emails from Smooth Comp saying, Kieren Lefebvre has, registered under Vantage, click here to approve or deny. Right. So yeah, long story short, Sam, if it'll let you, go for it. If it won't, you might have to answer those other questions as to why you don't want to represent either of those, your old team or new team.
And just to piggyback off of your point about ADCC not allowing closeouts, at the most recent ADCC Oceanic Trials that just went this weekend, there was in the semi-finals for the under 66 kilo division, there was two teammates competing against each other, Ethan Thomas and Dave Stoyle, or Baby Dave, as they call him. And it was a fucking war. It was razor thin. They went to war with each other, two teammates, and it ended up coming down to a referee's decision. So, yeah, man, they definitely do not allow closeouts. And as spectators and fans of the sport, we're better off for it. So,
yeah,
I like it.
Man, I've rolled with Ethan twice, and that dude is so, in all the positive connotations of the word, so scrappy. Like, he makes me, well, I guess he kind of looks like it too, but he's like the jiu-jitsu equivalent of Clay Guida. Remember the MMA fighter Clay Guida?
No, bro, I don't.
No, you don't know, man. Okay, so this is back in, the times of BJ Penn, GSP, Anderson Silva, Big
Oh, he
Nog was
does look
fighting
like
for-
Clay Guida.
Yeah.
He
And-
does.
but-
That's awesome.
But also just in his ferocity and his tenacity and like super technical. So I'm not saying he's not technical. And I
He's
believe
incredibly
Ethan,
technical.
Ethan won, right? Trials, didn't he?
Spoilers. Yeah, he did.
Yeah. So
He
guys.
did win. He did win trials in very
he-
good fashion in the
He's
final.
super good and super hard to hold on to. And even when he's not sweaty, he's slippery. He's fucking,
He's fucking good, man. Very, very
Yep.
good. But yeah, awesome. So next
Anyway,
question,
good luck, Sam. Let us know how you go.
Next question from Ross. Let's hear from Ross.
Hey guys, new listener to the pod here. Really enjoying working my way through the back catalogue of episodes so far. My question is just regarding learning as a beginner and the best way to find structure in my learning. I find I definitely learn best when there's a curriculum, I guess, or a path to follow. I'm 6 months into my jiu-jitsu journey so far, and I'm loving every single class, but I do find that there's a lot of gaps in my foundations. The way that the classes are ran is it's very much an all-level class. It's not a beginner class. So one day we'll be learning a technique, and then the next day it doesn't really relate to the one beforehand. And I do feel like, although I'm learning a ton, I'm missing out on a lot of pretty basic things that would make me a hell of a lot better. So I guess my question is, what's the best way to supplement my learning outside of class? Would it be instructionals, podcasts, YouTube videos, forums? What do you feel is the best way to supplement my jiu-jitsu classes? Apologies if this has already been asked. Like I said, new listener, really loving the podcast so far. Thanks, guys.
Awesome question.
Yeah, thanks,
Definitely
Ross.
not podcasts.
Yeah.
Not this one anyway.
Yeah. No, that's a great question, and it, brings up a lot of interesting points about that we've spoken about heaps of times. So I don't mean that as in the question has been asked before, but a lot about, what you can do to learn faster, or the best ways to consume jiu-jitsu content, and all these topics that have been mentioned. But yeah, I guess let me try. Like the struggle is with how dynamic jiu-jitsu is, and curriculums are great to some degree, but the reason that it's not something you see fundamentally in every single gym around the world, and what I mean by that is compared to something like karate or taekwondo and these very rigid set of movements that you follow, is that jiu-jitsu is just way too dynamic for that. And there are some things that are very, well, if you can't do this, you probably won't be able to do this. For like, if you can't do a half invert, you probably can't do a full invert or something like that. But, it's also not always the case that if you can't, some things one person will be able to do, a more advanced person won't be able to do. It's kind of like skateboarding. I grew up skateboarding with my brother, and it's actually kind of, despite what I just said, if you can't do a half invert, you probably can't do a full invert. My brother was someone who couldn't do a kickflip, but could do a double kickflip, right? Whereas I could do a kickflip. That was like my trick. And for people who don't know a lot about skateboarding, it's a very basic trick, right? It's like the first cool, in air quote, cool trick you learn. But I could do kickflips all day, but I couldn't do a double kickflip, So the curriculum structure of jiu-jitsu, it kind of has a lot of holes in it. So you kind of, even the most sound jiu-jitsu curriculum needs to cast a very wide, vague-ish net, because even in the most basic technique of teaching someone I don't know, a hip escape regard from side control, or an armbar from closed guard, or an Americana from mount, or whatever, the most basic, you can already add on top of that 20, 30 what if questions, you know? And, you know, and then when you're saying that one thing from one day doesn't connect to the other, again, that's par for the course. Imagine if you were trying to get particularly good at a certain move or trick on a surfboard, but you could go 6 months without the correct wave coming along that allows you to do that move. Like, so many things are out of your control when you're rolling, when you're actually training jiu-jitsu, similar to surfing, right? Like, it's completely out of control. You just get what you're given. In saying that, at someone at your level, well, just say two things to not really repeat topics that we've spoken about a lot. So is to, have some plan of attack with your deliberate training. So if you don't know what we mean by that, Ross, it means going into the gym with a plan, know what you're working on, rather than just going, oh, well, I'm just doing whatever I'm told. And I mean this when it comes to if there's any sort of free drilling, open mat, or when it's time to roll. And these
don't rock up to class and the coach is like, yeah, we're doing arm bars. And you're like, nah, fuck you, I'm no close guy.
yeah. But then, okay, at your level, 6 months in, how do you choose what to work on? Well, maybe think about your jiu-jitsu currently as a boat with multiple holes in it, sinking the boat. Find the biggest hole. And that's not a dig. I mean, my boat has holes in it, right? That's not a dig at you, Ross. It's just the reality of being 6 months in. Find the biggest hole and plug that. You know, oh, what are the holes? Well, let's dumb it down, right? So I'm going to sound very broken record-ish, but maybe that's just the norm after 150 episodes. You know, play it like a bingo board, 160. Play it like a bingo board. You know, your closed guard, half guard, side control, mount, back control. Okay, you're past those 5 basic positions. Have you got a bit of De La Riva, spider guard, you know, float passing, you know, headquarters, X guard, whatever other positions you're adding to your bingo board? And do you have some moves for all of them? Look at your training partners as well, like apparatus in the gym, you know, like I'm training with Kieren. Kieren's my, you know, like the same way you go to the gym and you got bench press and you're trying to hit, you know, oh, I want to hit 100 kilos for 1 rep max, or 100 kilos for 5 reps, or whatever it is. Kieren might be the guy that's like, oh man, like, oh, I can beat him in a roll, but fuck, I can never pass him. You know, okay, like that's my goal when I'm rolling with Kieren. I want to be able to pass him, you know, whereas I'm rolling with this other dude who maybe smokes me every time, you know, but then it's like, you know, man, every time he instantly, I'm escaping side control this. Like that's your goal with that's that apparatus. You know, Kieren's my bench press. This guy's my squat rack. The other guy's my, you know, my pull-up bar, whatever. And you've got your goals for each different exercise. You know, your training partners are your equipment to some, so to speak. So try, you know, I'm trying to bring you back into some sort of like tangible focal point without just saying, here's a rigid curriculum and follow it, because I don't think maybe I won't drag you along with me for this one, Kieren. I've shat enough on the whole ecological jiu-jitsu or whatever, but like curriculum jiu-jitsu would be, me
along with that.
Kieren got a tattoo, ecological jiu-jitsu across his chest. Curriculum learning is like the polar, is like the polar opposite, right? Just thinking that it's this strict form base to follow.
No, bro, that's completely wrong. Ecological teaching is not a strict curriculum-based thing. It's the opposite. They don't believe in that at all.
That's what I said. I said a
Oh,
curriculum
sorry.
base is the polar opposite.
Sorry, I thought you were saying ecological was a strict curriculum.
No,
I was
no,
like,
no,
what
no.
are you
Yeah,
talking
yeah,
about?
yeah.
You high?
No. So that's what I'm saying.
sorry,
I've shat on ecological teaching, but that doesn't mean I'm saying you follow this like 10 technique curriculum to get your first stripe or whatever. No,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
It's I don't think I'm not a fence sitter. I'm in the middle because the middle is where it's at for this conversation. Jiu-jitsu is too dynamic and things out of your control to follow a rigid set of steps, but it also has so many rules and mechanics and intricacies, and it's so complicated for it just to be this free flowing blah blah blah, right? In my opinion, okay. So you need to try find, how do you find your way through that mess? Look at it like a bingo board, right? Make sure you're coming into training knowing what you're going to work on, and the more you're in the gym, it becomes more, more realistic. So for example, one of the things I'm working on at the moment is wrestle ups, right? I've got a guy in the gym who's like 110 kilos, huge. So I don't know what that is in pounds, like
240.
Yeah, anyway, he's a big dude and it's all muscle. And he's a wrestler, right? And like, I'm not wrestling up on him, it's just, so I have a different, wrestle up might be what I'm working on at the moment, but against him, I'm like, nah, not on him. It's not, I have a different goal against that particular opponent. So try find yourself, the holes in your boat. Look at your bingo board. Where are the weakest parts of your jiu-jitsu?
Yeah.
And then come in with a targeted approach, right? And then in terms of how your class goes, I know it can seem a bit, one day we learn this and then the next day we learn this and whatever. Previously, I've said that I think gyms that teach the same technique every class for the week or a theme for the month, I think is lazy and it's boring and it's repetitive. And, so I think a diverse array of trainings and techniques is favorable to the people who train a lot. It rewards the hardworking, consistent students. So I know it might seem a bit vague, but those pieces come together. And at the moment you're doing a big jigsaw puzzle and you need to find the edge pieces, my brother, because obviously it's very difficult when you're just given random pieces and someone tells you put that where it goes. You're like, well, fuck, no idea.
Don't even know what the picture is, man.
Yeah. You got to find the border of your jigsaw puzzle, and the bingo board, so to speak, is a way that helps, in my opinion.
Definitely. I've been thinking about this exact question a lot because, spoiler alert, I'm thinking about and formulating a white belt accelerator program. I know the name is, under construction, so don't judge the name. But the concept is like taking someone in your exact position, Ross, and being like, okay, let's do a series of lessons structured around giving you the edges, right? And just figuring out the best way to give the edges. And I like what you were saying, Adam, about, or I agree with you when you say about the classes or the gyms that teach like a theme for the month or a theme for the week. That's called block training. And they've actually shown in other areas of education and learning and sport that block training is a very ineffective way of learning because you forget. Now, what would you rather, right? Would you rather do a month of arm bars, right, and get really, really good at arm bars, but then in 12 months' time, you haven't touched another arm bar? Like you haven't learned anything on arm bars. Or would you rather do arm bars maybe once every other week or once a week or something like that and revisit the information consistently? Which one is going to develop longer term memory and learning? Obviously the one where you're doing it spaced repetition. Spaced repetition is way more important than block training, block focus. And it's fucking boring, man. I've trained at gyms where they do arm bars for a week, and then you show up for the Monday lesson. Oh, you're doing arm bars. Show up for the Tuesday lesson. Oh, it's the exact same fucking thing. Wednesday, same thing. And there's very little variation. It's just so repetitive. You get so bored, and you're doing that for like
horrible.
half an hour. Like, what the hell? It's terrible.
But I mean, just on what you said, because we spoke about this accelerated white belt curriculum thing, though, but that it's not the same thing, because it's worth mentioning that you were talking about that from a one-on-one perspective.
Yes.
You were not mentioning that as in this could be used in every gym around the world. You were mentioning that as in the same way that, if you went to, like a strength and conditioning coach, and you say, I've got these goals, like, I want to be able to deadlift double my body weight or whatever, you'll have more or less a blueprint to follow, but it's going to be a case by case basis. Well, how much can you deadlift now? What shape are you in? Like, how's your back? Like, how much can you squat? And then you're going to and you're going to change the program based on that individual. Not only will you tailor the program to them. For one dude, they might hit that deadlift after 3 months. The other dude, it might take 12 months. Like,
yeah, definitely.
So, yeah. But anyway,
that is a very good caveat. Yeah.
I know that was a bit sort of messy, Ross, but it's find the edges of your jigsaw puzzle, my friend. Yeah.
One more thing I want to add. Sorry to extend this out, but I have seen and have worked with someone using one of those white to blue belt blueprint flow charts that you can buy for like $200 online or whatever. The presentation of them is really nice, and they're interactive, and they have like videos and stuff that put together really well. But I find going that direction can be incredibly overwhelming and confusing, because there's just too many branches coming off too many things. If you're someone that's a little bit more advanced, to be honest, I think that realistically that product should be aimed maybe at blue belt. I don't know, but that is an option if you work really well and your mind works that way. But I personally think they're okay for what they are, but
Yeah, or if you are, Ross, leaning towards some type of instructional / interactive learning, then I would suggest checking out Lockie's platform, Lachlan Giles's platform, Submeta. His platform operates differently to just typical instructionals, and it's more, they're not instructionals, they're courses that you do, and they have little quizzes in them and stuff. And if that's and Lockie's not only incredibly good at jiu-jitsu, an incredible instructor, like he's got a fucking PhD and stuff, he's a super smart guy, they're really well put together. And if that's the sort of learning that works for you, that might be worth checking out as well.
Yeah, we need to get a sponsor for Submeta.
Yeah, like he's suck a dick. I mean, sponsor us.
Wait, what? All right, let's play the next question from Nate.
Hi guys, I hope you're both well. I've recently had an incident with a slippery croc, which has resulted in a broken foot. With some foreseeable time off the mats, I have 2 questions I would appreciate your insights on. The first would be, how do you guys keep in the game whilst recovering from injury? And secondly, how do you maintain your strength and conditioning until you return on the mats? Thanks guys, appreciate your response. Cheers.
A slippery croc.
Yeah. So
I think you mean like Crocs is in the ultimate shoe, right?
So Kieren and my 4-year-old are the only 2 people I know who wear Crocs.
But Crocs and socks, baby. I wear them here in Sweden. Crocs and socks.
God. Yep, you stay cool, bro. Anyway, yeah. So broken foot's a tough one. Injuries, yeah. I think, Kieran's currently injured, and I've definitely had my multiple injuries throughout the years. How do you stay in the game? For me, and for me, it was a bit different. My biggest injuries came while I was in Brazil, and I was pursuing jiu-jitsu as a career, living really far away from home, I didn't live in a favela, but it may as well have been like I lived in super shit living conditions and no money. And when I couldn't train, and I couldn't get to the gym when I was injured because the logistics of travel in Sao Paulo. And so for me, it was very difficult. Like I had within 18 months, I think it was, within 2 years, I had 3 surgeries or something. You know, I really almost quit and came home. And this is before instructionals really existed. So how did I stay in the game? Man, for me personally, I kind of didn't really do any jiu-jitsu when I was seriously injured. I just went balls to the wall with rehab. Through my jiu-jitsu, I had a sponsored physio. So I had free physio, which made a big difference because I had no money.
Mm.
So I just did a lot of physio and a lot of gym. But to your next question, how do you keep up your strength and conditioning? This one's hard, in my opinion, when you have any sort of lower body injury. I think it's way harder doing strength and conditioning when you have a lower body injury. Maybe strength and conditioning. Yeah, I don't know. But it's hard when you think, oh, well, the rest of me's fine. But even the fact if you've got to hobble around the gym, to hobble from one piece of equipment to the next equipment to do your shoulders or your back or whatever, it's just way less fun when you're fucked up on the lower half, I think, in my opinion. And as someone who's had multiple knee surgeries, you know, I found it hard. I didn't really do strength and conditioning. If I was going to do strength and conditioning, I just did an extra session of rehab. That would, for me personally,
Yeah.
You know, and even when I had upper body injuries, like I had elbow surgery back in Australia, like a few years ago, you know, it still wasn't a lot I could do. Like I couldn't rack weights or anything. I just did a lot of rehab, and the rehab was quite painful. I had to take prescription meds specifically for the rehab. They were like, no, the rehab's going to hurt a lot.
Mm.
So you take the meds to push through the pain for the rehab.
Mm.
You know, so I'll do, again, just double down on my rehab. And then nowadays it's different how I stay in the game. Well, even when I'm injured, I think the last surgery I had, I only had 3-4 days off, and then I was back teaching after that. But teaching not remotely, but only audibly. Like I would just sit down on the side of the mats, and because it was a knee surgery, I would just sit and just, all right, guys, or I'd get 2 of my more advanced students and kind of explain the technique, and they would demo it or whatever. So I was still in the game. What one of my current students does, though, so this might be an option for you, depending on the logistics, is he recently had hip surgery, and he just comes in and hangs out in the gym. And when I say hangs out, like he comes and talks to me and asks questions. He's a brown belt, so he doesn't ask stupid questions most of the time. And so
wait, we're talking about Ollie, right?
Yeah.
He's a king of asking dumb fucking questions. Are you serious? What do we do? There was one incident where he asked the dumbest fucking question in our little group activity that we're doing one time. Fuck, I can't remember the story, but yeah, he's CEO of us.
Yeah, he does ask some shit ones. But you know, so we still very engaged in the classes. Now, maybe that's unique to our gym that I let that sort of stuff happen, you know. Post that, what I was doing when I was then back to being able to get on the mats in Brazil, you know, I trained at a competition team. I was part of the competition team. So if you weren't able to competitively train, you were just a hindrance to everyone else's training. So you didn't go to class. So what I would do was I was, you know, whatever, competitive purple, brown belt, and I was doing the white belt, one stripe classes where I'm learning how to tie my belt and cross collar choke, just so I could be on the mats and move and do some jiu-jitsu, because it was that or nothing, you know. Like I wasn't allowed to do the comp class, you know. So I was like, well, this class is on, I'll do this. At least I'm in the gym. I'm seeing my jiu-jitsu friends. I'm talking about jiu-jitsu. I'm helping the lower belts do a cross collar choke or whatever. And
I've done that a lot. I've spent, man, I mean, I haven't had any major injuries. I think the LCL tear is like one of the more major injuries I've had, apart from like, sprains and shit to ankles. And I've come in and I've, sat there and I've done that for weeks. And it's really tough, man. It is quite difficult to, particularly if you're in the state of where you're like, you could jump on the mats, or even if you can't, like I find it really difficult to sit there and watch people train. I like the technique portion of the class, but when it comes to rolling, depending on the class structure, when it comes to the rolling portion, it's really rough when everyone's rolling and you're sort of just sitting there watching. And I know
you just have FOMO straight away.
Oh, 100%. Fuck oath. You feel like
most of the time when I'm injured, I avoid the gym because of that.
Yeah.
I mean, nowadays it's a bit different because I've done so much jiu-jitsu that the FOMO isn't as thick and heavy. But even still, I was talking to Ollie about it today. Like, what was it? He was sitting down, and I turned to him and I just went, man, I just like couldn't be fucked to do any jiu-jitsu today. And he was like, yeah. He goes, yeah, but you're pretty good. You rarely don't roll unless you're injured. And I was like, yeah, I would say like 99% of the days I'm in here, like I'll train.
Yeah.
And then Ollie was like, oh, well, hang on. Even when you're injured, he's like, you fucking roll. I was like, yeah, so like I still do it, and I don't even have that beginner gains feeling anymore. But
yeah, definitely. I've seen heaps of people, sit on the side. Some people can do it just fine and they're happy to do it. I fucking struggle with it a lot. I'm not a fan of it, but I like what you're saying about the community engagement. If you're someone, right, and you're not sure, like you're not like full drinking the Kool-Aid with jiu-jitsu, and like no matter what, your leg could fucking be chopped off and you still show up to class. You still show up to training, right? If you're not at that stage, then if it's like, hey, if I don't show up to class and at least engage with jiu-jitsu, I'll probably never go back, then definitely show up, right? If you need that, then take it, do it. But if you don't need that, and like you don't give a fuck what happens, you always train jiu-jitsu, then like someone in my position, I find showing up to class does more harm than good to me at this stage. It's not like I'm not learning or anything. It's just, I personally don't like it. I'm not a fan. Now, I want to talk about just briefly what you can do if you have an injury to the lower body. Everything that I'm going to talk about, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a allied health practitioner, so you need to get clearance from your physiotherapist, from your medical practitioner, etc., before you do this. But one thing that can help if you have lower body injuries, like this is particularly relevant for things like LCL, ACL, like ligament injuries, or even just muscle, whatever it is you can do isometric training, because isometric training is training in strength training is training where your joints aren't moving. It can be there's two types of isometric training. There's overcoming and yielding isometric. So think about the difference between holding a pull up in the top position versus trying to bench press against trapped pins. That's the difference. So it's like a hold versus overcoming something that doesn't move. So the benefit of this is you can maintain a lot of your strength, but you're not moving your joint through the full range of motion. So you're protecting the joint, staying safe and stable on the joint, but you're still getting that strength-based workout. This is the type of training I've been doing. Also, they've shown that, again, this depends on getting clearance from your physio, etc. Depending on your injury, that it can be very beneficial to get strength training immediately, even if it's like very slow, doing things like, I've seen, there's a physio, a jiu-jitsu black belt, who's also a physio I've been following. He has an ACL, way worse injury on his knee than I have at the moment. But the same week, like days after his injury, he was in the gym lifting with his leg intentionally, getting in there and doing specific rehab. And what he was doing specifically was, I believe, Smith machine-based squats. So it's a lot more safe. And he was doing negatives on a leg extension machine. Now, I believe he had ACL and meniscus issues, not confirmed by MRI at that stage, but already he was straight in there operating, under his own rehab, getting strength training in.
Definitely a bit different though with broken bones.
With broken bones, yes, it is different. But what still remains the same is the fact that you could still do single leg exercises. You could, like with a broken foot, you still do leg extension machine. If you put it on your shin, you can still do leg curl. You can do isometrics on, a half squat. If you can weight bear on your foot, you can do isometrics that way. So there are things you can do, and you can also obviously do all your upper body. I agree with what you're saying about, it's not fun. And when you're injured and you're not at your full capacity, it's kind of like the argument about showing up to training when you can't train. Going to, do a workout when you're injured isn't super fun because you're limited, but I highly encourage you to maintain it. And another thing I would say with the lower body injury, cardio becomes very difficult, particularly with a broken foot. But what you can do is something like ski erg, or you can do assault bike with just the arms. Just make sure you're maintaining some level of cardio. Also, you could do sauna, which also is like a static version of cardio. It's been shown in research that sauna can help to improve your aerobic base. So that's something to consider. So that's what I'd say from a strength and conditioning standpoint, so long as you're cleared by your medical professional. So there are things you can do, and I highly encourage it.
More importantly, because you originally sent this message through on Instagram, and then, I was like, I'll shoot through the audio question. So feel free to just shoot through a message on Instagram after listening to this episode and let me know if you have continued to wear Crocs post or have you gotten rid of them? I want to know.
Well, it might have been like an actual slippery croc. He might have been wrestling like a croc, He's probably from Queensland or something.
Yeah.
Slippery crocs. But
right.
that's what I'd say about that. And
do we have another? Do we have more questions?
No, that is it.
No, that was it. Oh, shorter one today.
A question,
nice.
If you want to submit a question to the show, don't be a stranger. Go to the link in the description of this episode, submit your audio question, and be amongst the greats.
Oh yeah. Well, nice. Let's get on to something interesting. Something interesting. So here's mine. It's really not that interesting at all, but I'm just going to give a couple of things, share a bit of personal information, not like I don't fucking talk about my own life on this podcast anyway, that has been mentioned in the last couple of episodes. So last episode, my something interesting was mentioning this new analogy I heard about, when you're in a calorie deficit and, you have a blowout day and then you just go, oh, fuck it, blowout weekend or blowout week or whatever. And the analogy was like, that's kind of like accidentally pissing on the toilet seat and then just going, fuck it, I'll piss all over the bathroom. On Saturday, I pissed all over my bathroom, my friends. I tell you what, I went to
What'd
my
your wife say? Who cleaned it up?
Yeah. Oh, I haven't cleaned it up.
Blamed Atlas.
So, yeah. And then because we also maybe we didn't talk about this on air, but Kieren and I were talking about those, influencer challenges where they're like, 10,000 calories in a day, blah, blah, blah. I went to my friend's house for Thanksgiving, and we don't do Thanksgiving in Australia, but these friends of mine, they lived in the US for like 10 years, and the husband's Australian and the wife's American. So they do Thanksgiving. And Americans would know, and I think most people know, that Thanksgiving there's a lot of food that goes down at Thanksgiving. I easily ate like 10, 11, 12,000 calories in this one day for sure, like without even trying, man. Like it was it was awesome. It reminded me, I reckon I ate, remember the first ever gym party we had at Alex's house?
Yep.
I've never, Kieren ate more. Like Kieren's one of those people, I could have an overweight friend and he eats small portions and doesn't really eat that much or whatever, not like what you would think in a TV show or a movie where the big fat dude eats. Obviously he's getting his calories from somewhere and his lack of exercise or whatever, but doesn't eat like you think a stereotypical overweight person eats. Then I watched Kieren eat, and man, I never, dude, when I was feeling sick to my stomach, you were then another 3 Fucking another 3 brownies with ice cream past me, like so much food. And the way you ate on that day was probably what I did on this day, man.
My
like
boy.
I just
Hell
ate.
yeah.
And then when I left Thanksgiving because it was early afternoon and settled, I got home and I ate more. I was like, I have not tried this Ben and Jerry's ice cream flavor. And ate the whole tub, man.
Yeah.
And it was huge. I ate so much. It felt good. Thanksgiving is a great day. I'm so thankful for the giving of thanks. It was.
I have no idea what Thanksgiving is even about, but I've been getting because I email people, support email all the time. People ask me questions about the BJJ Strong Online platform and stuff like that. Anyway, so I go back and forth with heaps of Americans, and I've had four plus people be like, "Oh, happy Thanksgiving! Enjoy your Thanksgiving." I'm like, "Thanks, what? What the fuck's this?
Yeah.
What the fuck are you talking about? Where's my turkey?" Yeah.
But just to then end my something interesting on a more positive note.
That was pretty positive.
Yeah. No, it was great. It was great. And as Kieren knows, I can't go into too much detail because he'll neck himself. But I have another big party this weekend.
Oh,
another
Dave
big gym party.
Yeah,
and it'll be another 12,000 calorie day. I'm telling you,
jealous.
bro. Do you want me to read? I've got the menu here. Do you want me to read you? No, I won't read.
No.
Kieren literally messaged me and he was like, bro, no joke. He's like, can you please not post any photos and stuff about?
Yeah,
like the
just
guy
don't send it to me.
the guy who catered the day that Kieren had the huge feast to them. That's not the only time I've seen you go huge. Kuba's wedding, you ate crazy as well, man.
Shout out to Kuba. That was amazing, bro. That was amazing. I ate our tables worth. I got the money's worth. That's for damn sure. It was great.
Oh man, but I mean, if you're not enjoying yourself at a wedding, unless it's something like, the wedding happens to be on the day before Worlds, and or what's something crazy like that,
Well, I had 3 portions of the main.
Dude, you ate. Yeah, that's right. You went back and asked for more. You were like, are there more mains? Yeah.
Oh my God.
You ate.
I was such a glutton.
Yeah. But the guy who catered that day that Kieren went crazy is also catering this thing on the weekend. So Kieren literally messaged me and he was like, man, can you not send me any information? Because it's just such good food. So yeah, I've got another 10,000 plus day coming up on Saturday. But anyway, on another note, so we did a couple of episodes back, the importance of asking why. And I spoke about, why I've been doing some running lately and also why I've been doing some swimming. So I just thought I'd share that I hit a couple of little, not PBs because they're not PBs, but little goals that I had. And they're very insignificant goals, right? I guess significant for the effort I'm putting in, and but they were just I wasn't necessarily working towards these, but I was like, it'd be cool if I could do it because I haven't done it / been able to do it since I was in my late teens, early 20s, because I haven't done these running or swimming since then, right? But I managed to do so I did a 5K run in under 30 minutes, which I know is not great, right? But, I haven't ran 5Ks in I can't remember how long. I don't run. Actually, to be more specific, I did it in 25 minutes exactly. So I managed to maintain a K every 5 minutes, which was okay pace. And then I got up to swimming 1,500 meters in the pool.
Nice.
So they were like 2 little goals that I was just like, it'd be good if I could, kind of similar to how someone might, not go into the gym with any particular set of goals, but they might say like, it'd be cool to be able to deadlift 100 kilos or something like that. And then they reach that, I managed to deadlift 100 kilos. That's what those goals were to me. They weren't massive goals, but kind of enough to make me feel like, I got a little bit better at running and swimming. So I did I wanted to do 5Ks in under half an hour. And I wanted to do 1,500 meters, which was also in under half an hour. It was in about 30 minutes, which is only double Olympic record speed. So,
Yeah.
But yeah, that was me. That's my something interesting. I got fat, then I went for a run. There you go.
Fuck yeah. It's just like the gym bro numbers that everyone wants to hit for the big three. Like if you're not a powerlifter, is benching 2 plates, squatting 3 plates, and deadlifting 4 plates. So it's 2, 3, 4 is like the gold standard for gym bros. So it's like
that's like 100 kilo squat, right?
No, 100 kilo bench press.
Oh, sorry, 100 kilo
180 deadlift.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I've kind of had I've been told like a good measure is if you can squat your body weight and deadlift double your body weight. And I'm like, I've never been near that ever. I've never.
I would say a good squat would be at least 1.6 times your body weight.
Bro, I'm not even close.
Yeah, and I mean, ideally, you want to be able to squat double your body weight, and you want to be able to deadlift 3 times your body weight. That's strong.
What?
If you can do 3 times your body weight, you're pretty strong. Yeah,
that's all right. I can hip escape. I'll be fine.
Yeah, but I mean, actually, funnily enough, and this leads into perfect segue into my something interesting. I've seen research to suggest that strength for the lower body, that 1.6 number I didn't just pull out of my ass. If you cannot squat at least 1.6 times your body weight as a man, then you won't actually benefit from doing power training for a sport like jiu-jitsu, wrestling, combat sport. You should focus purely on strength first and get your strength up to that level. Because my something interesting is I released a podcast episode, probably in my opinion, the best episode I've done for BJJ Strong podcast specifically on power. And it was, it actually it took me a really long time to put together, researching like the science behind power development for combat sport and power development for sports in general. And it was really interesting. But my next something interesting is I found out, I don't know if this is true, but he left a comment on our YouTube, so I think it's true, that Nicholas P, we always talk about Nick P, he's our OG, our very first Patreon ever, so shout out to Nick P. He is the person that left that Reddit post that you read out on the last episode. So last episode, something interesting, where you read out the Reddit post where someone's like, I actually disagreed, like they're always off topic, but that's my favorite part. I think that's the one he was referring to. I think that is Nick's Reddit post, or he was one of the Redditors in
no way
thread. Yeah, man.
Yeah, Nick P, fucking OG dog, man. He hasn't come over to visit for a long time. Yeah, he's in New Zealand, but whenever he's in Sydney, comes in. It's been a while since he's been over. That's awesome. That does remind me. Yeah, the 2 guys, Cade and Liam. Again, hopefully I'm remembering their names that I mentioned at the start of the episode. Who introduced themselves at the competition. They both said similar things about the podcast in the sense that they were like, yeah, man, I just like the back and forth, like banter and chat. Like, it's, a lot of podcasts are really trying to be this super like high end analytical, data driven, whatever, which is fine. Like they weren't shitting on those either, but they were like, I just like that it's kind of just way more casual, and you can really tell it's 2 mates just chatting and whatever. But it's also that's right. But it's still about jiu-jitsu and
Yeah.
That's cool.
My final something interesting, which is very topical and actually legitimately interesting, and I mentioned it already in the episode, just squeeze it in there, that this past weekend, the 2023 ADCC trials for the Oceania region, Asia, Oceania. We only get one, but the trials just went. It's available on Flow Grappling. I was trying to watch it live, but I was using someone else's account, so I think they were logging in and kicking me out. So,
I wonder who it was.
I'm not telling. But if they hit me up, I'll be like, yeah, bro, I was using it. But once I realized they were actually using it, I stopped logging in. But I wasn't sure if it was them or someone else they'd given the password to. So I was like, do I play a war with them, like geolocation war, or do I just let him have? And I played it safe and I stopped logging in. But the trials just went. It was really, really high level. The Asia Oceania trials are just getting better and better and better. And I will we have to shout out Sydney West Martial Arts. They absolutely dominated the trials. Their showing was amazing. Like last trials, they really showed up. They had 2 athletes go on to win the division and compete at ADCC. And this year they had 3. So they're getting better and better. It was really amazing what they were able to achieve. And particularly the 66 kilo final was really, really high level. Ethan Thomas took that out for 66 kilos. The 77 kilo Kenta, a part of B team, I believe he's officially a part of B team. I think Craig was there coaching him, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong. I saw Craig. So he won the 77. Isaac Michelle won the 88, who was affiliated with Sydney West Martial Arts for this competition.
I was going to ask who he's competing under because I don't really follow that the gossip scene of jiu-jitsu, but
I believe
he got kicked out of B. Yeah, but he kicked out of B team, then tried to go back to John Danaher, but New Wave wouldn't have him.
Yeah,
so I didn't even know if that he was back in Australia. Well, the trials were in Singapore, right? But I didn't even.
The trials were in Singapore.
Is Isaac living back in Australia now?
No idea.
Do you know?
No idea.
I thought he was still in the US, but
yeah.
Anyway,
he may still be training out of there, but he was affiliated with Sydney West for this comp. So he won the under 88, absolutely dominated. Under 99 kilo division was won by Declan Moody, B team guy, and the above 99
and trains Declan when he's in Sydney is grappling education.
I believe so. I believe so, but I think he officially he was under B team for this comp. So 2 B team guys, and the rest dominated by Sydney West. And last but certainly not least, above 99, an absolute incredible display by Josh Saunders. Fucking just destroyed everyone, man. The guy's an animal. Like, he can be controversial, but fuck, man, he is good. He is fucking good. Like, I have to say that publicly. Josh is very good. But that was cool. And a shout out to Jeremy Skinner, who also competed. Didn't have the run that he would have liked, but still really, really awesome fashion, winning his first few. And I believe he missed out on the quarterfinals. So but it was very good, very close match. But yeah, that was my rundown of the trials. Definitely worth a watch.
Nice. Well, yeah, guys, you can watch it on the ever awesome Flow Grappling if you choose, or all right, guys, we're going to leave it there. Thank you so much for listening. Of course, if you want your questions answered on the next Q&A, you can send those through. It'll be, another 10 episodes. So you got plenty of time, but we hold the bank of questions. All the links are in the description. All the links to everything spoken about today will be in the description. But yeah, guys, thank you so much for listening, and we will catch you next time.